Alright, making a video. Yeah. Anyway, comments. Eh, anyway. I wish I could be more enthusiastic, but... Anyway, Bob, the fly. The one problem, I'm sure you have other problems, I see with the push theory of gravity. Well, I know the push theory is kind of, it's obviously a very specific push theory, is that due to the fact that all heavenly bodies, that's not a very nice put, heavenly, we just should get rid of that word altogether. So everything in the universe, let's just say, do is act like a shield. That's not, it's not how it works, but okay, let's just play along. Let's see. Due to the fact that all heavenly bodies do, see, this just isn't a very good sentence. Push theory of gravity is that due to the fact that all heavenly bodies do is act, it just doesn't work, like a shield casting a particle shadow on nearby objects. Yes, the shadow is in an analogy, a metaphor. It's not meant to be taken explicitly because the shadow isn't created exactly the same way as light shadows. But in a sense, okay, it can be understood the same way in that the light doesn't get where it's going, that the force doesn't get where it's going. Now the mechanism isn't that much different than light actually, in the sense that the light is absorbed by me if I'm in making the shadow. My back will get warm. Anyway, huge, giant, enormous objects shouldn't have much more gravity than just huge objects. So that just makes much more, just doesn't make any sense. I mean, clearly, I've said over and over and over, it's a nuclear force. But even just looking at the equations, you've got to know that gravity is about mass. Okay, so, it's not about the feather, the piece of paper. I can make a planet out of a piece of paper. A huge, giant planet out of a piece of paper. Now, you realistically don't think my theory says the big, giant paper planet, all right, is going to be the same. Gravity is going to affect it the same way as it affects the big, heavy, dense lead planet next to it or something. Right? So, I mean, I'll draw some of this, but there's, obviously I've said this stuff. I guess I have to put it on the website. I just have to have these bullet points. There's only one universe, the small universe. Everything that happens here in the big universe happened on the small universe. The small universe is running everything. There's no, we're not doing anything. It's like my brain. My brain is not doing anything, me. There's just a bunch of electricity and programs running and shit. It's just, it doesn't have anything to do with any big mechanism. It has to do with these little mechanisms. So obviously the gravity is being collected by the little bits. The electrons and the protons are the ones that have to move. They're not being like dragged along by the planet. So it's like the school of fish isn't dragged along by the school. The fish make the school move. The school doesn't make the fish move. Anyway, alright, should have much more gravity than just huge objects, as they are all casting a near 100% gravity shadow. So here you're using the word gravity shadow, and you should recognize that obviously gravity has to do with your mass, how many atoms you have. So the feather absorbs less gravity than a cannonball. That's why the feather falls at the same rate, is because it absorbs so much less force, because it has less atoms to push. Alright, anywhere... And the atoms, of course, are the same. The atoms in the cannonball are the same as the atoms in the feather. So they're falling at the same rate. You get it? It's about how many atoms you have to absorb the gravity. Gravity shadow anywhere they block. The only difference should be the area of their effective shadow as they scale up in size. So again, you're just not getting, it's not about size. It's about weight. It's about density, you could even say. But it has to be about the number of little bits. They're the things moving, the fish. All right. Well, they're not really the fish, so let's not confuse the two metaphors. I don't. The matter doesn't have any innate movement. It has to absorb movement. Obviously, the absorption is collecting or trapping the force, stopping the force from going where it was going. I am sorry I deleted other comments I made. I prefer to have this point addressed more than the less relevant ones. So again, all right. So let me just draw some crap and just explain, but it's kind of a redundant explanation, but can't hurt, I suppose. Don't even need to do the two color thing for this, but against the small universe. And so the small universe we know is made of these atom things, and it's a lot of empty space and all that kind of crap. And there's the idea of these electrons and protons, and electrons have distance between them, and protons are all clumpy in the center. And there's reasons for that too. And then this force stuff is what's repelling, bouncing back and forth between the electrons. And that's essentially the stuff being collected, is this stuff that we would call pressure. But for something to move, accelerate in gravity, what has to happen is every single one of these little bits, in one way or another, there has to be a change in the pressure of its world. So if you're sitting somewhere in your world and you're getting hit by even pressure all the way around, well, then you just stay where you are. But if I uneven the pressure, I add some other pressure, well, then you have to move because the pressure changed. Well, the same thing happens to these atoms. More pressure comes in a certain direction because of the force of gravity, and it goes right through some of the atoms, and it's just gonna move. It's just gonna hit electrons, and the force can hit. It can hit this electron 17,000 times, and it can hit this electron only 6 times. There can be all kinds of probability irregularities. It doesn't matter really, but in the end, it's not going to matter, because whatever happens to this electron happens to this electron. Whatever happens to this electron sort of happens to this electron. It certainly happens to this proton. So if this moves over here, then that's going to change the pressure balance, and then the proton's going to move over here, and then that means this electron's going to move over here. That means this electron's going to move over here, and this electron's going to move over here. It just means the force is the pressure, and we see that on the Earth. So maybe no gravity, no force actually gets to the center of the Earth, right? Like none of the external pressure ever gets to the center of the Earth. It only gets there through the chemical pressure. That is the atoms, the movement of the atoms. So the atoms have momentum, and they keep pushing, pushing, and pushing. Just like if I put 7,000 elephants above me, right? You're not thinking about, well, how much gravity is hitting that first elephant. That's not the thing that's the problem. The problem is all the other elephants have already collected momentum in a direction, and they're the thing that's going to squish me. Because it just keeps collecting the force. Every second the force is being collected, and every second it's moving through all of the elephants. Each elephant is pushing on the elephant below it, and the other, and pushing and pushing and pushing, and they're all pushing on me eventually. So you have to have atoms. The number of atoms will tell you how you're going to get affected by gravity. And even if the gravity can't get through the matter, its pressure hits it then. So the very fact that it doesn't get all the way through means it obviously hits stuff. And if it hits stuff, it gave stuff momentum, and that would be absorbed gravity. You get it? So that gravity was automatically absorbed. If it doesn't get to the other side, it means it got absorbed. That means the gravity had an effect. Now if I have a feather, not too many atoms, lots of gravity goes straight through without hitting anything. I have a lot of atoms, the gravity ain't going to get through. So gravity doesn't care about your shape. If I take the same pen and I squish it into a piece of paper, and I make the pen this big, it doesn't get more gravity. There's still the same number of electrons and protons. And the electrons and the protons are the thing being affected by the force. The atom isn't really affected by the force. The fish are. See, I don't want to say that again. Electrons and protons aren't the fish. It's a bad metaphor. I can't use the same thing, two different things for the metaphor. So I'm just saying force is the fish. So let's just... but clearly, the gravity is affecting the elemental bits of matter. The big stuff is just following along. Okay. That should be enough. Yeah, that should be a complete enough statement. So again, I have it printed in some videos. I don't think I have it on the website, but I should, bullet points. Gravity is a nuclear force. It's affecting electrons and protons and any other, whatever other crap you want to put in. You want to put some neutrinos in there or some other crap, it's affecting the other crap. What it doesn't affect, because it's a force, is other forces. All right. All right. Dang, why are there 34 thumbs down and only 3 thumbs up? I don't know. You don't follow along, I guess. I mean, that happens on like 50% of my videos. It's just not news. There are only 88 views. Yes, and 34 of them by a bot of some kind, or a troll, or a spammer. So it's not like there's even 88 real views. It's just the little busy trolls. I've noticed why you're different from other physics video presenters. Well, the first reason I'm different is because I'm not talking irrational goo. All of them are just plain wrong. They cheat the argument all over the place. I mean in the sense that they just misparaphrase their opposition. They're not at all fair. Okay, they create straw men all over the place. And it's like, yeah, they don't really have an understanding of any of this stuff anyway. So they're basically saying, look, they just made up a story, and then they just make up a story. So all they're doing is saying, my Red Riding Hood story is better than your Goldilocks story. That's how bad it really is. Because they don't have anything that makes any sense. They just sit there and say, well, it could just be all this swirling stuff, and the swirling stuff is creating, it's just, where did all the swirling stuff come from? I mean, it's not a less complicated solution to the problem. They come up with something even more complicated. Oh, there's some other kind of gravity that moves photons, and it's moving the speed of light squared. I mean, they fall into the same traps as regular physics, where it just starts making up crap to justify what it said is a truth, and it doesn't want to accept that it made a mistake. In the case of like understanding that galaxies are expanding, not contracting. So yeah, so they misunderstand how galaxies work, and then they have to create some kind of dark matter to fix their broken math. And it's merely just because they made a mistake. They keep thinking the universe is pulling together when it's pushed together. And the push might be running out because, well, I've already explained. The simple version of the universe is the yin and the yang is the free force versus the compressed force inside of atoms. So when there's more force trapped inside of atoms, there's less free force to do the pushing. So then the stuff starts spreading because there's less force on the outside, but there's more force on the inside. And then once everything spreads a little bit, all the galaxies get to a certain size and start irradiating, shooting X-rays everywhere and energy everywhere. Then the universe starts getting more pressure, and so then everything starts to shrink again. Yeah, it could be that simple. Anyway. All right. Anyway, you're different from you only. So I've noticed you are very different from other physics video presenters. You only describe what is happening. I don't. I don't know. I mean, I'm modeling, and my model actually works. So, I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm just saying the model actually does fit what happens, and it doesn't rely on, insane amounts of energy to create, like I said, using this stupid Denew effect, where water. You can get water to start swirling, and when it's swirling, you can get it to attract, a vortex to attract or a vortex to repel, based on how you get it swirling. But the amount of attraction is so weak compared to the amount of energy it took you to move the medium, that it would be an insane mechanism for the universe to be using for attraction and repulsion. It wouldn't make any sense, because it'd be like a gazillion times more energy in a magnet in the swirling. And we should just be able to stick our finger in the swirl and collect the energy. Anyway. So let me see if I can actually finish this one sentence comment. You only describe what's happening. The why is almost not even part of the video. So I don't know where you're getting that from. So that just seems weird to me. I'm, of course, explaining why it happens. I'm not telling you why there are photons in the universe. Now, I can't do that. I can't tell you why there are electrons. I can give you a little bit of speculation. I could say that, well, originally all there was this black and red force stuff. And, in the first version of reality, where it starts compressing, banging into, well, I can't even say that. Through versions of the universe, okay, through time, okay, over a period of time, just through some sort of routine event, there would be some circumstance like where 4 arrows came and converged on each other and hit. And when they did that, they stuck to each other. And that ended up becoming like an electron or something. So the first matter was made out of the force. But, who knows? But clearly we know that the elements in the current universe had to be made in high pressure furnaces, because they're full of this pressure. They're full of a bunch of energy that was arranged in an environment that had to be pressurized. And they're just durable. So it's just like you can make things in pressurized environments, and then you can take them into the real world and they'll stay functional. And it's that kind of principle. Like molding steel. You can heat it up and then you can shape it and do things to it, and then it can harden into this world and it stays the same shape. That kind of crap. Alright. So yeah, I don't know where you get that I don't do whys. I do whys. I can't do why there is something versus nothing. I can't do that why. So Superior Mind, very interesting discussion. Yeah, bent space is essentially an ether, since nothing can't be bent. Yes, they're all just ethers, because they're also saying everything's waving. So again, they have to give everything some sort of wave function, which it doesn't have. Again, this whole de Broglie nonsense, where an electron is just minding its own business, going 60 miles an hour somewhere, and they go, that has a frequency. It just doesn't make any sense. It's like giving a car going down the highway and saying it has a frequency. It doesn't have any frequency. It has a momentum. They're interpreting momentum as a frequency. It's just illogical nonsense. But again, once you turn a single thing into a frequency, well, how could it possibly have a frequency unless it's waving through something? A single thing? It can't really have a frequency. Anyway. Michael Skinner. Creepy name. Dude. So just, it's just so strange that these, you almost feel like just saying, dude, do you think that, when I see somebody calling somebody else dude, that I say, oh, that's got to be a really smart guy trying to tell a really dumb guy? No, that's not what I think. I think that's a really dumb guy talking to another dumber guy, maybe. But I mean, dude doesn't sound like the way somebody who has something important to say. It's not the way they start their sentences. It just isn't. I mean, somebody with some sort of sense of I don't even know, common respect even. Who would I call dude? Somebody who I think is beneath me. I wouldn't call somebody who I had respect for dude. Just saying. Making videos is a collaborative effort. I don't know what that has anything to do with it. Okay, this is like, I think, the physics girl video. The physics girl catastrophe. There's just really superficial, bad physics, and it's just got a little pretty face on it, and it's just horseshit. It's bad science. Alright. She's trying to stoke curiosity. I don't think people who are already watching the video, I think they already have some curiosity if they're watching a physics video. And again, if all they're curious about is, oh, that chick's hot. Yeah. In people who haven't taken it in a fun and professional manner. Stoke curiosity in people who haven't taken it in. I don't know what that means. Haven't taken it in a fun and professional manner. The whole point is it's not professional. She's a hack. You know, she's no good. It's bad physics. Let her be. Right. Let her teach people wrong because she has a pretty face. Don't hold her to the same standards you people might hold other talking heads. No, I think she should be held to a standard. She shouldn't be doing girl physics. Great definition of mass in particular. Okay. Let's see. Well, I mean, maybe he wrote this comment a long time after he wrote this other one, because he apparently didn't get the whole mass thing 4 hours earlier. He didn't really understand the mass argument. So anyway, the ability to acquire momentum. Until the push theory, something similar to that definition has to be right. Again, it's, yeah, I just don't really understand some of the way you're stating these things. I just don't get. The ability to acquire momentum, comma, until the push theory, something similar to that definition has to be right. All right, so the ability to acquire momentum is the definition of mass. Until the push theory, something similar to that definition has to be right. Excellent. Well, anyway, I don't know. Until the push theory, I don't, again, so we're, any old push theory won't do, but okay. Yeah, I don't even know how to, I don't know, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I don't know exactly how to respond to that. All right. My last comment didn't make it into the video, unfortunately, which was, I don't know why it didn't make it, but he says he deleted some of his own comments, so I don't know. The only problem I can see with push theory of gravity, yeah, I already read this. So he just rewrote it a different way. It did make it. It was on the video. That's why I read it. Is that heavenly bodies cast gravity's shadow that blocks particles. Once 100% or near 100% blockage has occurred, the increase or size of the space object would not continue to acquire any gravitational function. So again, you're just not understanding that gravity is coming at a constant rate, just like the light from the sun. And you can either collect 30% of it, you can absorb 50% of it, you can absorb 90% of it, you know, your surface, depending on how dense you are. But again, it's just about the mass. If you don't have enough mass and you're too transparent, then yeah, a lot of the force goes through you. But you're only going to collect it with the little matter bits. So you have to have the matter bits to collect it. The more matter bits you have, the more you collect. And again, if they're stacked behind each other, it's not going to matter. If there's 400 of them stacked in a row, it's still going to add up, because each one that hits the first one isn't going to, the thing won't be able to go anywhere. It's going to just transfer the force to the other elephant. So the same amount of force is going to hit it. You're still trapping it, and it's just being transferred to the other elephants. It's a really dense force, so you can't, you know, an elephant can't block it. You know, a ton of it gets through the elephant. You have to have an insanely huge amount of matter before you can say there's no, you've reached the maximum. And that's the whole point of the black hole argument. See, the black hole argument assumes that gravity is an infinite force. And I would argue, no, it's not. So black holes could only be so big. They could never get bigger, because there'd never be enough pressure to make them any bigger. They couldn't acquire any more gravitational mass. Now they could acquire more mass, don't get me wrong. They just can't acquire more gravitational mass. So they couldn't make more gravity. So there's a certain point where you get so big, and yes, stuff will still be attracted to you at, say, 500 meters per second. So you have a lot of gravity. But no matter how much bigger you get, it's still just 500 meters per second. Because you just can't create any more pressure. You can't create any darker shadow. That's the way to put it. You can't make the shadow any darker. It's as dark as it can get, and it just won't get any darker. Alright, increase on size of the space object would not continue to acquire any gravitational function. Well, it wouldn't continue to increase in gravity, but it would still be very gravitational. It'd still have a very strong, it would still be getting bigger. It just wouldn't be getting bigger at a faster rate. It wouldn't be creating more gravity. It would just have a lot of gravity and stop at a lot. A neutron star and any other giant space object, well, again, they're not supposed to be giant, they're small, should block equal amounts of crap in its shadow. Yes, you can argue that once it gets to a certain... Why did my connection just disconnect? Oh, Jesus. Well, I better connect again. You know, I am entitled to it. I'm paying for it. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I could... Well, I think I'll do something about it. Yeah, look. I can pause. Nah, sorry about that. Who knows? Some sort of cable issue, I guess. So what was I? Okay, 100% you're 100. Okay. So he's, look, he's just making this point that the neutron star and any other giant space object, so again, you should go by mass, should block equal amounts of crap in its shadow. So again, the mass decides how dense the shadow is. So the thicker I am with atoms, the more shadow I'm going to cast, the darker the shadow will be, technically. And yes, clearly I would argue there's a certain point where you've blocked all the light. None of it got through. And once you get to that point, you can't create any more gravity. So you can have a lot of it, 500 meters per second or something, but it can't get any stronger than that, no matter how big you get. Alright. There should be a fundamental cap on the gravitational shadow, just like the speed force c. Yes. So that's exactly the point. And it is exactly my reason why I'm saying there's something, the whole problem with Einstein's math is the fact that when they decided to do the spent space thing and create a non-real force, they didn't have to account for the force running out. So they could make infinitely deep wells because nobody told them there's only so much digging shovel. You know, you can't dig any deeper. And so they have a whole bunch of theoretical physics that's based on an idea that may not be true, that there's an infinite amount of force you can create, gravitational force. And when you think about it logically, it sort of makes sense. If the universe could create infinite amounts of gravity, don't you think it would have already done it? I mean, realistically, if black holes could really get to these preposterous masses, you know, 2 million suns, you'd kind of get the idea that, well, wouldn't that suck just about everything in a galaxy into the black hole? I mean, what would really stop it from just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger? So the catch is that they make the damn thing have no mass, no size, no radius. So they end up making the matter capable of compressing to some point where it's so small, okay, that it can't exercise its gravity because it doesn't have any dimensions. You know, it's this tiny thing. And so at the inverse square law, it loses all of its gravitational potential before it even gets to the size of a sun, because they smashed all of the sun into this tiny little thing. And so that's kind of the fraud of the whole thing, is that we don't have any evidence you can do that to matter. And so it's just a catch. You know, it's just a game they're playing with their mathematics, and it doesn't have anything to do with what you would rationally understand to be real rules. You know, there's just nothing about the universe that looks like you can just create any size gravity well. Nothing. You know, it just doesn't. There's just no appearance of it. You know, of the super giant space sucking black hole, and that should exist if their theory was correct. I contend it should anyway. All right, so let's just refresh this in case there's any new comments. Yes, my connection did work. Okay, good. All right, nothing new. So we'll see if there's any new crap on the subscription page. It probably won't be. Yeah, you know, I play some of this, you know, Bill Gates and Son stuff because, like I said, they're not bad videos, but it's on the subject of black holes. It's just totally uninteresting. And this Brian Greene thing was just a complete waste of my time. You know, talking about string theory. It's just absolute crap. You know, so it's nothing you could say. It's just all made up nonsense. And they talk about how beautiful the math is, and still, and there's no evidence of any of that beauty that any rational person can see. And there's certainly no evidence that explains why magnets attract. I mean, they don't answer any questions that any of us, any rational person would ask, like what makes two magnets attract or repel. Those are the important questions. String theory doesn't answer any of that shit. I mean, they keep pretending they have answers to questions, and the only questions they're answering are the questions I'm not asking. How big is a clump of dark matter? Or, you know, what, you know, how many parsecs do I have to fly before, you know, Peter Pickle Picker Pecker picked enough pickle peppers? You know, I mean, it's this stuff I don't care. Yeah, they don't answer any of the real physics. All right, anyway, so I guess that's it, right? I don't think there's anything else. I mean, this engine running without oil, big deal. Yeah, I mean, Volkswagens, you get lots of engines that have been able to run without oil because they, you know, are air cooled, and the oil isn't quite as important then. But anyway, whatever. And the synthetic stuff now, you know, everything's coat everything with Teflon. But anyway. I mean, in a conventional engine, the oil serves more to move heat, you know, than it does to lubricate. I mean, it's probably more necessary as part of the cooling system than it is necessary as part of the lubricating system. But whatever. If you don't cool the parts, then the sludge, you know, the stuff sticks to the parts, get so hot they burn the oil, and then the oil can't lubricate because it's burned. But anyway, yeah, probably enough. Anything else? I could drive something else, but I guess there's no point. So I think that's it. So shorter video, but yeah, again, I'll have to make a list of this stuff. I mean, I have, you know, so many little talking points that I haven't published as written talking points. I suppose that's what I have to do. Yeah, I just haven't felt like doing it. You know, I guess I have to do it. So anyway, just so people can read the checklist and say, oh, okay, gravity's a nuclear force. Got it. Affects the little bits. Again, there's only one universe. The small universe is the only universe. We're just byproducts of what the small universe is doing and such. So anyway, till the next time and such. I think that's all. Can't see anything else there. So that's it. Till next time.